Hey, everybody, this is Alicia Katz-Pollock, and welcome to our Royalwise.com live demo of Uncat. While everybody's getting settled, a little bit about me. My name is Alicia Katz-Pollock, and I'm a top 10 pro advisor, and I'm the trainer at Royalwise.com. I'm a member of the Intuit Trainer Writer Network, and so if you take any trainings with Intuit, I might be either one of the voices behind the curtain or on stage, or one of the little elves typing away and answering your questions. So here at Royalwise, we have a whole video library to train you on how to use QuickBooks Online, and so that's why we were really excited to have Brandon come in and tell us about Uncat, because it's such a necessary tool to doing your bookkeeping. So I encourage you to check out all of our trainings, and I'm going to, at the end, spend a few minutes telling you about some resources available to you. So that's enough about me. Brandon, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Hey, everybody, this is Brandon Bruce. I am in Knoxville, Tennessee, headquarters for our startup that we call Uncat. We are big fans of cats. I have two at home, so sometimes people ask, Uncat, does that have anything to do against cats? Absolutely not. Cats are our mascot, or as we call them internally, our mascat. So you'll see cats all over the website, including one riding a horse across the desert, which I'll show in a slide coming up soon. But thrilled to be here. That
picture's been cracking us up, and I'm Alicia Katz-Pollock, so we definitely have a
perfect. It's perfect alignment. So yeah, looking forward to showing you the app. Of course, Uncat is short for uncategorized transactions, so that's what we're all about.
So this class is being recorded today, and so you're going to be able to go into our third-party apps course at royalwise.com and watch all of the videos, and then we'll also make the handout for this with the slides today available to you as well. And at the end of the course, I'll show you where all of those things are. So as far as questions and answers, this is interactive. And so if you are in the live audience today, we have you can go to the Q&A or to the chat, but preferably the Q&A, and answer your questions there. But then after the fact, if you have questions down the line, you can log into our course and you can ask questions in our course forum. So your support for this topic today doesn't end with just today's course.
So I'll run through a quick slide deck to show by way of introduction to Uncat. And then of course, naturally, proof of the pudding is always in the eating. So I want to show you the app and get your questions about it as we go. And like Alicia said, feel free to pop those questions in chat or Q&A, whatever is easiest. Well, thank you all for being here. So I'll show you a few slides, but just by way of introduction, where did we come from? Why did we build this app? Uncat it's a software as a service web application, and it's for accountants and bookkeepers. So folks that work with clients and help to run the books for all of these small, medium, even some large businesses around the country. We built Uncat for you all. Uncat's simply an abbreviation for uncategorized transactions. So these are all the expenses and deposits that haven't been assigned to an account in QuickBooks Online or other accounting software. Popular examples. What do we see the most of flowing through Uncat? In terms of expenses, we see a lot of Amazon and other big box stores, Target, Walmart, Home Depot, Costco, etc. In terms of deposits, uncategorized income, we see a lot from probably what sound like usual suspects to you all. So Venmo, PayPal, Square, Stripe, a lot of things where it's like, okay, all these deposits are coming in, but the customer itself isn't Venmo. It's someone used Venmo as the payment system to get you the money, but really the customer is somebody else. We want to know who that customer is. So what does Uncat do? We sync uncategorized transactions with QuickBooks Online, and then we have integrations getting pretty close to ready to go. We're in beta of QuickBooks Desktop as well as Xero, but our focus has been on QuickBooks Online, so that integration is really well baked. We notify the client. So instead of having to say all the time, hey, client, and chase the client for information, hey, can I get information back so I can close the books, so I can get these transactions categorized, we automatically notify the client to add descriptions and receipts. And optionally, you can give the client the power to even categorize on their own or add classes, and I'll show you those settings. And then third, we notify you all, the accountant, to review and categorize. And you can do all this right inside of our app. So at its core, we're a sync engine for transactions with QBO. And then we're also a notification engine. We get the information back from your clients. And this really interrupts kind of the previous workflow, which we'll talk about. Why is it important to categorize? You already know all this. File taxes properly, run accurate budgets and reports, respond to audits, among other things. It looks like this, and I'll show you it live in a minute, so we won't dwell on that slide. There's a 14-day free trial, so if you haven't already checked out Uncat, just go to our website, uncat.com. you'll register, you'll connect with QuickBooks Online and invite your first client. Probably takes you 60 to 90 seconds, super easy. And it's a very low cost app. It's $5 a month per client that you connect to Uncat. Adam Slack is my co-founder. He's the president of Two Roads Bookkeeping here in Knoxville, Tennessee. They were the first firm of the future announced by Intuit several years ago. So it's a very modern, forward-thinking firm, big on technology. He was essentially looking at their workflow and saying, wait a second, we're exporting hundreds of spreadsheets a month in reports of uncategorized transactions from QuickBooks Online. And we're chasing clients for information. And then when they send it back to us, we're copy pasting into each individual transaction their responses into QuickBooks Online. This really feels like we're herding cats. That's the first time that phrase was used in connection with this process when we had that first lunch. And so I was like, wait a second. He said, do you think we could build an app for that? And that's where Uncat came from, is to eliminate that process and come up with something that saves a tremendous amount of time. Jared Smith's my co-founder and is a software architect and coder, and so does an awesome job building the app. Uncat makes it easy to resolve uncategorized transactions. That's simply our mission. And here are a couple nice customer reviews. We've got thousands of folks using the app, tens of thousands of transactions flowing through the system. And so it's always nice when folks tag us with some kind comments. And we've done a little bit of internal. This is kind of apocryphal, but normally if I was to send you a spreadsheet, wait on the answer, get it back, copy and paste it into QuickBooks, you're talking like, if you're quick, maybe that takes you a minute. With Uncat, it's all syncing. It's all automatically going in. And the notification happens by itself. So it's really kind of the engine that could in the background. And that process really goes down to 5 seconds. I'm simply reviewing what you typed as a client, coding it, and it syncs into QuickBooks. So it's a big time savings. We're really competing against 2 primary apps. Both are spreadsheet apps. Microsoft Excel, of course, is the primary one, and then Google Sheets can also be a popular one for sharing over information to clients. But both are awesome spreadsheet programs. Neither are good at notifying clients, and neither are good at syncing with QuickBooks efficiently. And I'll show you the difference. Obviously, it's a big market for us. This is me. I have experience running a previous software company doing sales software, and now I'm excited to be in the accounting software space. And there is our famous cat riding a pony through the desert. There's all my contact information, so feel free, obviously, to go to the website. But if any of you want to reach out to me directly, book a demo, learn more, ask some burning questions, I'm just Brandon at uncat.com. Okay, cool. So let's jump out of that. So if you're on our website and you're like, okay, this is intriguing, I want to do a trial right on the webinar. As soon as the webinar is over, I'm going to go check this app out. Just tap free trial. And like I said, you'll be up and running in about a minute, minute and a half. So what happens once you invite that first client? So you'll connect to QuickBooks Online. You'll choose the company file you want to connect, and then you'll put in that client's email address, and we'll send the email to the client saying, dear client, your accounting professional, Alicia needs information back from you about uncategorized transactions. Click here to go straight to your dashboard. And that's really important for us. We learned early on that clients don't necessarily love when their accounting professional adds more software, because sometimes their feeling is it creates more work. They got to download some apps. They have to update them. They've got to remember a new login. And the client doesn't really want to participate in any of that. They've got a business to run. So for us, the key is that magic link that we put in the email. And so the client doesn't need to create a password. They don't need to download any apps. We just take them straight into Uncat where they can see a dashboard, and it's really intuitive from there what they need to do. And we have little tool tips and pop-ups that let them know, hey, do this next, et cetera. So when they click that link, we'll take them straight to the dashboard. It looks like this. So you're looking at some pretty typical transactions: Costco, Venmo, Applebee's. What are these? And so we're inviting the client to put in a description to let us know what those transactions are all about. So I usually call those the 5 W's, right? Who did you eat at Applebee's with? Why did you eat at Applebee's? That way we can code it properly and get the right tax treatment for it. What did you buy at Costco? We know what Costco is, but we also know you can buy tens of thousands of SKUs there. So what was it that you got and what was it for? And then we can reconcile it properly. So this is where you put the description in. And this is where you'd upload an attachment. Typically, that's a receipt. In the case of income, it might be a PO or a contract or some other supporting documentation. So if the client has that, they can drop it in there. If the client has any questions, or they're like, gosh, I can't remember what this one was, or I'm going to need to request another receipt, they can simply type in a message to you that you'll get on your side. You also can ask them questions and type messages back about any given transaction. That way, it keeps it all contextual. So from there, they'll click Save Updates and two things happen. The description syncs to the description on that transaction in QuickBooks. The attachment syncs to the attachment in QuickBooks, and then it shows up on your dashboard. So within a day, we send you a digest. Here are all the clients that have made updates to Uncats, right? 77 updates. This client made 50. This client made 20. This client made 7. Great. Then you can click that magic link to go to your dashboard, which looks like this. And you got some more bells and whistles here. So you got quite a bit of power. So here you'll see the client updated this one. So we color coded it yellow. We put a label on it that says client updated. So we can see, oh, the Amazon transaction, they got supplies for the new office. And in this case, and I'll show you the setting in a second, we allowed the client to categorize. So we gave the client what we call the client superpower. So the client in that case is allowed to choose a category, but before it syncs into QuickBooks, we get to review it first. So we can look at this and say, yeah, the client got it right. I'm going to approve it. And then click Save Updates and sync into QuickBooks. Or I can say, no, they've got it wrong. I'm not going to approve it. I'm going to choose a different account from the chart of accounts here. Both are good options. You can also do a lot of things that you would normally do as part of your categorizing workflow in QuickBooks Online. So you can choose customer, you could choose a location, you could choose a class. There's some additional options. If you press this plus button, you'll see you can turn on billable, you can toggle on tax. If you were a Canadian accountant, you would see a number of tax rates here that might apply. And so by doing all that, you can get all the information in without having to jump into a separate QuickBooks Online tab. Okay. Here you can see the attachments if they've added any. You can also add your own attachments if you happen to already have the receipt or some other piece of supporting documentation. You can do that here. And then when you're ready to go, you'll click Save Updates. And the updates that you've made, including the category you selected, will sync into QuickBooks Online. And once you've categorized, then of course it's going to disappear from your dashboard here because your work is done. It's not Uncat anymore. It's categorized. So it worked. So you can knock that out for this client, Acme, but you can also see your other clients that you've connected. So if you were to say, okay, well now I'm ready to review this client. In this case, the client has not typed in descriptions yet, so you're still waiting on that. But we put all the clients on a single pane of glass. That way you don't have to jump between lots of tabs to knock out the books. Let's say at the end of the month, you can see all your clients here. You can categorize across all of them in the same sitting. It makes it really fast and easy. So that is the dashboard. And one other kind of fun power feature, you can select multiple rows. So if I wanted to bulk action this and put the same class or the same vendor or the same account for all of these transactions at the same time, I can do that. And that's a nice time saver too. If you wanted to notify your client right away, you've got a deadline, it's tomorrow, there's a board meeting, there's a tax deadline, et cetera, you can click the Notify Now button. We will send them an email with their magic link that says this is the work you need to do. We'll also optionally send them a text message. So if you put their phone number into Uncat, or if they put their phone number into Uncat, we'll send them an SMS notification. It's got that link in it. They'll tap it. It opens up the Uncat mobile website. So it'll open up in Safari or Chrome or whatever they use for a browser. It'll be responsive on the screen. They can upload receipts from their camera roll on their phone, tap in descriptions, click Save Updates, and it'll sync through. So that is page 1 of 3 in the app. We try to keep it powerful but simple. So this is the dashboard, and then we can click in and check out the settings. So these are the firm settings. This would be for across the firm that you connect. These are the clients you've connected to Uncat. These are your colleagues. So if you work with other accountants, other bookkeepers, you can invite them. There's 3 levels of permission. The firm admin, that's probably going to be you. The client admin can update client settings and invite additional clients. And then a team member can work with clients in the dashboard. You can also assign specific clients to your colleagues. So if one of your colleagues works with clients A through G, you can assign those clients to that person. That way, those are the clients they're going to see on the dashboard. Those are the clients they're going to get notified about when they make updates. These are your user settings, self-explanatory. The firm settings, this is very popular. It essentially gives you the opportunity to kind of white label or co-brand the apps. You can upload your logo. You can put the name of your firm here. You can change the color of the app. Let's say your brand was red. That way, when your clients land here, when you land here, they'll see, oh, these are the people I work with. This is the firm I use. I like this app. I like them. I'm glad that this worked out, right? So it's a nice brand impression. And then we'll dive in. That was page 2 of 3 3 of 3 is the client settings. So for each individual client, you can customize Uncat so it works just right for the workflow that you have with that client. So here, if we jump in, you'll see these are the accounts that we're syncing with QuickBooks Online. So we're looking in the uncategorized accounts, right? Expense, income, asset, ask my accountant. We'll automatically look for suspense, which is pretty popular, especially on the zero side. But any account that you want us to sync with, simply select it here from the chart of accounts, and we will sync any transactions in those accounts into Uncat. By default, we sync backward 1 year from the date that you connect or to the most recent close date. So if you've closed the books last quarter, we'll sync back to the beginning of the current quarter. We do that obviously because when the books are closed, you can't edit the transactions anymore in QuickBooks, nor can you do it through Uncat or any other third-party app. So you can choose the accounts here. You can also, there's some power features. If you additionally want to sync transactions that are missing a particular field. So for example, we have a number of firms that use Uncat to not only sync uncategorized transactions, but also to bring in any transactions that are missing a class, for example, because they want to ask their client to supply a class. So that can be really useful to say, I want to sync in transactions missing a class, regardless of whether they're categorized yet or not, and show them in Uncat to get that additional information. If you want to exclude and or include specific accounts from the category list, for example, to simplify it down so that you can navigate it faster or so that your client can, you can feel free to do that here. You can also add a big note at the top of the dashboard. So for example, if there's an upcoming deadline where you simply want to remind your client, hey, always upload a receipt if the total tab is above $1,000 for an expense, then you could put that note in there just as a kind of a general reminder. This is the client notification settings. So by default, we send out a notification weekly. You can choose the day of the week if you have a preference, otherwise it'll go out Monday. You can also choose to be notified immediately when this client makes updates. So this may be a super high profile client. You want to make sure that you get notified right away so that you're on top of their books. That's great. Otherwise, we just send you a digest, right, on a daily basis if any of your clients have made updates. So pretty easy. You can change this to monthly or daily. We see daily sometimes for clients that are super high volume, e-commerce, for example. So hundreds of transactions, and they need to get answers kind of on a daily basis. Otherwise, they may forget. Monthly is also fine. Weekly is the best because it gets information back from folks when they have an opportunity to remember what it was for. Sometimes when it's been a month, all of us have a tendency to forget exactly what we might have spent or received money for if it's 29, 30 days in arrears. These are client dashboard settings, client usage settings. So I'll focus on superpowers. So if you want your client to be able to categorize transactions, choose a class, right? This is a client that's sophisticated. They know their way around their chart of accounts. They're kind of doing the books with you. You're a team. You can turn on this toggle switch, and then you can choose which fields are visible to that client and which fields are required. So you can require them, for example, hey, I always need a class from you for every transaction. And that's fine. You could require class. So I'll go ahead and toggle it on and show you. Here are all the fields, and you can choose which ones are visible, which ones can be created by a client. You want clients to be able to create new accounts, create vendors, stuff like that. And then up here, and we're going to consolidate these actually in settings, you can choose which fields are visible. And then lastly, this is the list of client users. So you can invite as many users as you want under a given client. Sometimes for a small business, that's just the owner. So it'd be one user. Sometimes for a larger client, that could be multiple vice presidents, and each of them have their own credit card for expenses. So in that case, you can invite all those client users, and if you want to, assign them to particular payment accounts. So this user, as an example, is only going to be notified and only see uncategorized transactions that originated from their Visa card, because they don't really have visibility to the rest of the firm. They have visibility into their card and what they spend money on. So they're the best ones to ask for answers to those questions. Similarly, and we've seen many firms do this, they'll create different accounts for different people in the client company. So if you want to, you could assign this person, like I want to assign the accounts receivable that are uncategorized, the uncategorized income. We want to assign it to the accounts receivable manager, let's say. That person doesn't have a lot of visibility in the expenses of the company, but for income, they're the right person. So you could just assign them to see the things that are relevant to their job. Or you might assign, ask Sally as the account to Sally and ask Brandon to Brandon, et cetera. So it gives you some control over who sees what and who takes action on what. And that is the client users. So that is the whirlwind tour of Uncat. At the end of the day, and we've measured it for ourselves and certainly across the firms and the clients that work with us, much, much faster than trying to send spreadsheets and chase folks for information. None of us love that process. So this definitely saves a lot of time. Equally, sometimes more importantly, it communicates to the client that you tech forward, right? Hey, we're going to get this work done. We're going to do it quickly. I value your time as a client. I value your business. And so I'm hooking up this app so that we don't have to do it the old way anymore. We can do it the efficient way, get information back. And as a result, we'll close the books faster. We'll have the report ready for the board meeting faster. We'll have better information in the system for preempting an audit, let's say. So it's a nice way to get all that data back without having to go back to sending spreadsheets by email, or we've seen firms take screenshots and send them by email to clients. And these are all kind of old ways of doing things that aren't necessary anymore when we have the ability to sync transactions and automatically notify the right people at the right time so that we can get the right information in the system. So I'll pause there because I want to make sure we have time for any questions. If you've seen anything in Uncat and you're like, well, how does it work if, or where exactly is this coming from, or how often does it sync, et cetera, I'm happy to answer any of those questions. I think probably I've already answered one, but it can be a popular question. Here you can see these are the accounts that we're syncing. So sometimes people say, is this coming from the bank feed? And the answer is no, it's not. So the bank feed transactions are not in the ledger yet. They have to be there in order for us to see them and sync with them through the QuickBooks Online API. So we can't connect to the bank feed yet, nor would it be technically appropriate from an accounting perspective to do so. So the way to do it from the bank feed is either manually or by rule. There's certain items where you say, I need more information from the client about this one. I need more information about this one too. Just pop those in one of these accounts and Uncat takes it from there, right? So then the workflow in Uncat is we notify the client, get the information back, notify you, you categorize it, we sync it back into QuickBooks. It's a full round trip and your work is done. It all goes very quickly. Okay, let's pause there and I'll go to chat and Q&A, and feel free to type in any questions at all about Uncat, about uncategorized transactions, about general workflow, and I'm happy to answer them.
So this is Alicia. I love this tool. The fact that, like, the way that I think I would use this is to make a rule in the banking feed that after I've done all of my, work, if I can take certain things like Amazon and automatically put it to ask my accountant, and then Uncat just alerts the client, and then the client can go in and do that coding for me.
Yeah.
That is such an amazing, amazing time savings.
Yeah, no question. And I'm glad you mentioned the bank feed. I'll show you an example of that because people will ask, like, well, wait a second, what happens to the bank feed information? That's in the description field. And that's something we learned early on. When we put it in the description field, it was susceptible to the client modifying it or even deleting it. That's not what we want. We want to preserve that information. So what we do is we sync the bank feed underneath the field so that it's perfectly viewable. You can get that contextual information. Meanwhile, we leave a blank open field for the client to type in what the transaction was about. And then when we sync it back into QuickBooks Online, we sync in the client description, we put a separator in there called //uncat, and then we have the bank feed. That way we preserved all that information, because it might say, you know, Costco store number 1234. And it's like, that's useful to know. Now we know what store it occurred at. We want to save that, but really we want to know what the client bought, why they bought it, and then we can categorize it the right way.
That's super cool. The idea that we don't have to make a spreadsheet of these and send it to the client and wait for the client to fill it in, is just amazing. The fact that you can really automate the process and then have to put no effort into it, and then see all your clients on one screen and be able to sit down and do a pass where, like, now's my 15 minutes to go ahead and put in all of these uncategorized transactions. That's so cool. That is so cool.
It makes it quick. And here's an example, because frequently people are like, I absolutely do not want my client to categorize transactions. They don't know their chart of accounts. They're running their business and they really rely on me to make those selections for them. And that's great. That's the default Uncat setup, the default configuration. But with that superpower setting enabled, and you'll remember I turned it on in the demo. Now, if we go to view as client, and this is view only, we can't edit anything because it's just showing you what the client will see, but we don't want to act as the client. You'll see that now the client sees these additional fields. And when they come into Uncat, they can take action on these fields. So they can categorize, they could choose a location, a class, et cetera, and then sync it in. And so for those sophisticated clients that you're in the books with them, this is great because it's letting the client do the work that they're perfectly happy to do, that they want to do. They want to get it done. They don't want to do it in a spreadsheet, and you don't want to have to copy paste the categories they typed in or chose in a spreadsheet back into QuickBooks. That's not a good use of your time, obviously. So that superpower setting can be extremely useful for those types of clients.
And so you said that you can also attach receipts
to
it. And does that attach them in QuickBooks?
It attaches them in QuickBooks. Yep, it syncs into QuickBooks, and so it puts the attachment under the attachments on that transaction. So that way you go into that transaction, it's like, oh, cool, there's the receipt. There's the screenshot of the pricing on the shelf or whatever the client has, whatever you have that's going to support the transaction. We'll sync that into QuickBooks. See, a couple questions came in on the chat. Robin asked, when I put a note in for a client and hit send, does it send them a notification right then? Or does it just show when they go to their dashboard? Great question, Robin. It shows up when they go to their dashboard. So they'll automatically get the notifications on the schedule from settings. And so if you were to put a note in and send it over to them on a Friday and the notification goes out Monday, they'll get a notification. It will say, Brandon, your accounting professional, Robin, needs information back from you on 7 transactions. And I go to my dashboard and it'll show that note lit up, and I'll be like, oh, I should check this note. And there'll be a note from you saying, this is a really big transaction. I need a receipt and I need to know exactly what line items you bought at the store so that we can account for this properly. And in fact, since I gave that as an example, one of the things that we're excited about that's coming into Uncat probably within the next week or so is the ability to split. So split expenses. So that's been a highly requested feature because people want to be able to do it from here and not have to go into QuickBooks after they get the information back. So the client might say, well, I got a refrigerator for the office. I bought a TV for my house, right? And then I also made a return. And it's like, wow, there's a lot of stuff going on in this transaction. So the ability to handle that through our app and not have to take that information and be like, shoot, I'm gonna have to action this in QuickBooks. Not a big deal, but it'll be a big time saver when we have the ability to split in the app. And we've completed most of the coding for that. So you should see it in there pretty soon. So we're excited about it. Let's see. Second question was, can you search transactions that have already been categorized? So here we have a button called View Categorized Transactions. This is just going to show you a view of transactions that have been categorized through Uncat. So it's not going to show you all the transactions in QuickBooks Online, obviously, because there's going to be a lot more than have flowed through our app. But here you'd be able to see a list of, okay, these are transactions. How did it get categorized? Where did it go? Who did it? What was the description when it went in, et cetera. So in this case, it's a demo org. So you're going to see a lot of shorthand and short answers. But when a client actually does it, you'll see full descriptions and exactly where it went. But yeah, great question.
This is such a huge value added.
Thank you. We're excited about it. Mostly we're excited when we hear feedback from clients via their accountants. So the accountant will from time to time forward us an email from the client. So my favorite one so far, not long after we launched, the client had simply written to their accountant and said, I like this better. And I was like, that's the best review of all time, right? We had the old way. This is a better way. Let's stick with it. And of course, naturally, the accountant liked that feedback because it's going to be sticky. It's going to be a sticky app. It's a good relationship with the client. And subsequently, they added a lot more of their clients into the system. That's usually the process that it takes. So it's nice when people say, yeah, it's just a better way, whether it's because it's time saving, you're not having to do manual tasks anymore, a combination of all the above, leaves a good taste in everybody's mouth.
And at $5 a month per client, it's really easy to absorb into your pricing. And
it's a
way more
price that we like to say it's easy to say yes to, because to your point, it's easy to absorb it in the pricing. It's easy to pass along to the client. We have firms do either one, and no one has heartburn about it because it's $5 a month. So as Alicia from Two Roads said in her review, it's kind of a no-brainer when you compare it to the time that you would otherwise spend doing it? And wouldn't you rather spend that time doing pretty much anything else on behalf of your clients, being a strategic advisor, really looking for tips and tricks that'll help their business? Awesome. Or doing something totally different, but it doesn't need to be in hurting the spreadsheet cats.
I also really like that you can specify multiple expense accounts for review. So instead of just having to ask my accountant or a suspense account, like the fact that you can have uncategorized asset in there, because that's a kind of a bugaboo from the bank feed side, that usually anything that winds up in uncategorized asset was usually a deposit that was sucked in inappropriately through the banking feed, and being able to help identify what that really was, because usually that's a return of product that just somebody clicked add in the banking feed. And so that right there is a huge solve.
Yeah, the product development process has been really, really fun, obviously, because we hear back from people, what features do you want? What's the most important thing? What is your workflow? How can we make Uncat work the best for it? And then trying to build that in while retaining the simplicity of the app, but giving people a lot of flexibility. And so in the case that you're talking about, so many firms name the accounts differently. So, as you know, and probably the folks on the webinar do, uncategorized expenses, and you can't delete that as an account. You can rename it, but it's there to stay. QuickBooks will not let you get rid of that, or uncategorized income, et cetera. So it's there somewhere. But even though it's there, some people create and name their own accounts, and they put everything in those. So they don't use uncategorized expense. So if we only look there, we might see 0 for a given client. Meanwhile, they've created an account called random stuff, or
suspense,
or review before end of month, right? Title it whatever you want. And so we want to make sure that we can sync from any of those.
That's awesome. And the fact that the customer can help you assign the locations or the classes, it's awesome.
Yeah, sometimes it's the client that knows best about that transaction. Sometimes we're flying totally blind, right? The client went off to a conference, did something, we don't know what it was for. And so we just need that information back from them. So really at its core, Uncat is very much a client communication tool. Mm-hmm. It's a way to make efficient that process of getting information back, rather than, delaying it by going back and forth by email 100 times. No one loves that.
I have a list of favorite apps, and this is definitely on it for sure.
Nice. That's what we want. We want to be, part of our aspirational goal is certainly to be in the tech stack, if you will, right? So when you onboard a client, what apps do they get? Obviously, they're going to get QuickBooks Online. Maybe you also want an app for bill pay. Maybe you want one to handle invoicing, and that's like, those are tech stack apps. Like every client's going to get backup. Like everyone gets a backup. Everyone gets this, and so we obviously we would like to be in the position where it's like, hey, we always use Uncat for uncategorized transactions. Clients love it. Makes our job easier. The data flows. We can close the books faster. It feeds the reporting engine, whatever you use for reports. Makes reports better. And so this just can be part of the tech stack. We always implement it, and we love when that happens.
There's a comment in there about the appologist. I'm a top 10 pro advisor for 2021 from Insightful Accountant, and the category that I got was appologist. So nice. Obviously I'm going to love this. And it's I joke that appologist, sometimes people misread it as apologist, because a lot of the time I'm kind of making excuses for things that QuickBooks Online doesn't do. So when I find these big potholes that somebody is filling, it always makes me really happy.
Nice. The 2 meanings of apologist. Razy, you asked, will it be available for QuickBooks Desktop? Yes. So we're in beta of that. We actually just made a number of pretty significant updates just this past week. So we're excited about it. We'll be submitting onto their store shortly, and then hoping to go live. So if you've got some QuickBooks Desktop clients, which I assume you do, because that's why you're asking, just sign up for that free trial, ping me with a quick email and say, hey, can you set the feature flag so I can connect to some of my desktop clients? And we'll set that, and that'll become an option in the app. And the way that works is you get a QWC file, so a QuickBooks Web Connector file that then lives with QuickBooks Desktop and allows our app to communicate with it. Because obviously QuickBooks Online is titled that because it's online. It's available all the time, or pretty close to all the time, through the QuickBooks Online API. Meanwhile, QuickBooks Desktop has lots of different ways of living. It could just be on your computer. So it's either running when the computer's on, or when the program's running, or you've got it on a server in the office, or maybe it's in a hosted environment. So it's virtualized and it's running up on, a Write Networks or an Azure or an AWS or something like that. And so our app will be able to work with those configurations. My email, and I'll put it in the chat, it's just brandon@uncat.com. Jeff, you're asking, does Uncat work with all subscription levels of QBO? Yes. Yeah, we have people using it across lots of different subscription levels. And as long as the subscription includes API, and I don't know of any that don't. So as long as the API is available for it, we can connect. If they ever have something where it's behind a different wall, where it's like, nope, the API, we haven't written API for that, then obviously any third-party app will not be able to connect. But for us, we can work with any edition of QuickBooks Online.
Does it work with QuickBooks Self-Employed?
It should.
Okay.
It should. Yeah, for the same reason, right? As long as it's in the cloud, as long as it's supported by the API, then it's fine. As long as Intuit hasn't put sort of a gate there that says, oh, if you're using this version, it doesn't come with those special things. As long as it's available to other apps, then we can absolutely connect with it.
I also like that you can put your own branding on it. That's particularly cool because then it gives them a seamless experience as well.
It was an early request, and it's certainly been a popular one. So if we're online with a firm, helping them get set up or answer questions, typically, right, they'll invite their first client, and then they'll race over to the settings page and update logo and color and everything else. That way, when that first client arrives, it's a nice branded experience and it reflects well on their firm. Because that's really what we want, right? I mean, if we help an accountant or bookkeeper have a great client relationship, then it's going to be a great relationship for us too. If the client's super happy, then the bookkeeper's accountant's going to be happy. We're going to be happy. So it works out.
Can you show me your logo again? I think I saw a hidden picture in there. Oh, it's right up there.
Oh, at the top
cat
left.
nose. The nose of your cat is a question mark.
It is, and so is the U of Uncat. If you turn it to the side, it's a question mark. So that's our version, right, of like the FedEx logo, which has a little arrow pointing to the right because they're moving packages all the time in their logo. So ours, and Kaylee did a great job with this. She designed Uncat with a U as a sideways question mark. So when you look at it the other way, it's a question mark because these are things we have questions about.
And if you look at my
transactions,
if you look at my owl logo, its wing is a computer mouse.
Oh, nice. I do see that. Very cool.
So we have that in ours.
That's why graphic design is fun. Little Easter eggs.
Yeah. All right. So, and if people still have questions, you're still welcome to ask them. So there are the handouts of the slides. And so that way you can share them with your clients when you're introducing this new tool to them. So here's in the slide deck, it even shows you where to go to find these things. And you can also review the course as well, which, social capital, it helps other people find this course later on. So this is just one class of many that we do here at Royalwise. And so this is what I consider kind of the mid-level of the iceberg, that we have beginning QuickBooks Online training and we have deep dives as well. And the mid-levels, all the practical solutions, this is how to go in and get the work done, because I'm all about efficiency. I hate doing things more than once. And so that's why I'm like such a geek for tools like Uncat. If you look in our OWLS, we call it the OWLS because it's the on-demand web-based learning solution, and you see classes that you like, you can get individual classes or you can subscribe. And at the bronze level, you get 2 hours of live classes and 2 hours of on-demand classes for free every single month. And that's $108 value for $47. Or if you look at our list and you see like tons and tons and tons of stuff that you want to take, then sign up at the silver level, which gives you full access to the entire library, a 1-hour group meeting every month where it's a round robin where you can ask me questions. And so lots of benefits there. And then I also have a coaching program. So if you also would like to meet with me for an hour every month to ask questions about your QuickBooks file or get specialized help, that's where the personal coaching comes in. We have some additional events coming up. Tomorrow, we have Mariette Martinez doing a one-page business plans that rocks to get you all lined up for your 2020. On December 17th, we have How I Learned to Love QBO for Accountants, and that is also sponsored by Uncat. So we'll have some information about Uncat again in there in the context of managing all of your clients through the QuickBooks Online for Accountants portal. So if you're a bookkeeper, this is one of those essential classes because I'm going to show you all kinds of stuff about how to manage your client to-do lists and client communications, things that are very similar to what we're talking about now. And also, if you're coming over from desktop or you're used to desktop, learning all the client management and practice management tools in QBO, like all the things that you're not sure where they are in QuickBooks Online, I'll help you with that. So it's a great way of getting confident to use both tools. Starting in January is when I start my fundamentals training. So I start with the beginner's guide to QBO. I also, because it's 1099 season, I have a 1-hour training about how to run your 1099s through QBO. And then I have my boot camp, which is my fundamentals training about how to use QuickBooks Online. And whether you're a bookkeeper or maybe you have clients who need a little bit of training on using QBO because you keep telling them the same things over and over again and they're just not getting it, let me help you with that. You can send your clients to that QBO bootcamp as well. Well, thank you everybody for joining us today. Brandon, do you have any final comments that you would like to chime in?
That's it. Thanks again. Hope to meet some of you in person in 2022. We'll be at some of the big conferences. Hopefully QuickBooks Connect will be back in person in 22. Mm-hmm. But we also like to go to the ICPA Engage conference and the Woodard Scaling New Heights, and we'll be at some other ones throughout the year. So if you're there, look for the cat riding the pony.
All right, excellent. So I'm going to get to meet you at Scaling New Heights because I'm definitely going to be there this year.
It'll be fun. It'll be great. So anyway, thanks very much, Alicia and Jeff and team, for having us on. And anybody who has questions, just shoot me an email, brandon@uncat.com.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us, and we will see you in class.